This is the second leg of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers taking on the BC Lions in back-to-back weeks. And this is the first game here, which ended 34-20. If you don't mind, let's go over the injury report. Current injuries for the BC Lions are pretty salient because we have Stanley Berryhill III, a wide receiver, out with a thigh injury. Another thigh injury occurred to Kieran Poisson, a slot back, which is a receiver running back hybrid in Canadian football. The one that is most glaring is the questionable status of Nathan Rourke, a quarterback with that oblique injury. It looked pretty serious to me. It's because he's a running quarterback with a small frame that kept on getting hit instead of going down with the slide or heading out of bounds. Now for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, they have two running backs and a wide receiver out. Peyton Logan, the running back with a thigh injury, and Brady Oliveira, a very good running back with a shoulder injury. Dylan Mitchell is given the injury coach's decision. Maybe there's some crazy thing that he did to get on that list. I don't even want to know. I'm not going to be a gossip channel. Both teams have a fairly potent passing game. Even with Rourke out, the passing game seems solid. But one team has a running attack in the Blue Bombers. I like the Blue Bombers defense as well, while the BC Tigers have a pretty average defense in my estimation. Let's move on to the next clip. Now for one of the very first plays, we have a handoff, and the quarterback tries to help, and it's just enough help to break loose number 20. That's a pretty good run to start things off for the game, huh? Let's take a quick look at the standings. We don't want to dwell here too long because you can pause the video and glean all the information that you could ever need. You see the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have one win, and they got it at the hands of the Lions. The Lions won their last game against the Elks. The Elks are probably going to stay in that basement. I wonder if the Lions held some tricks in hand and didn't display them against the Blue Bombers, seeing as they have to see them in back-to-back weeks. That being said, it was a pretty definite win for the Blue Bombers, and you can see the points for and against. It was 34-20 against the Lions. The Alouettes remain the class of the CFL, but they did have a step back in their Week 3 performance just the other day. Not their best performance of the year, their worst one, but all their other performances were very stellar. Rough Riders continue to live on the edge of the knife. I wish they would close out games. So let's go ahead and move on. Let's move along. Let's have a look at this pass. He steps up in the pocket and he delivers the throw in the shot play. There we go. Let's have a look at these Winnipeg Blue Bombers real fast. Streveler threw 10.3 yards per pass attempt with 3 touchdowns to 1 interception. That's what I like to see. I want to see at least 250 yards passing, especially in this passers league. And functionally, 246 is close enough to call it even. You know, he did his part. With 15 out of 24 passes, that ought to bring us to lower than 70. It's 62%. That's pretty bad. But you know why it's okay? It's unfortunate that Oliveira is out because look at those dashes right there. He's really good. Is that he had a running attack that went for 179 yards off my eye there. Yep, 179 yards. With 25 carries, that's a lot of balance, and it sure helped. I liked that Streveler was able to target a bunch of receivers with 3-3-5-5, but he has a favorite in Wheatfall, but that's not so bad. That's not so bad with this kind of level Strevel performance here. I like that they were able to get home on the lines. Oh, you see some distortion from Hallett and down. Don't worry, you can guess that's... We see that Chris Ike had a fumble return. Okay, that's the only thing that's notable there besides Hallett's tackle. It's a defensive tackle right there. But we have 2 interceptions, a sack. We're in good business here with a forced fumble as well. As we go ahead and move on to the next clip. Here's some cause for concern for those Lions because this guy was wide open. He had to slow down. I don't like that Streveler couldn't lead him, but hey, he found him at least. That's some soft coverage. Now it's time. Let's look at those Lions and see how they performed in their match against these Winnipeg Blue Bombers. You'll see that Rourke and Jeremiah Masoli both threw well. Well, I'm looking at the average amount of yards, anyways. When you see that Rourke was below 50% in his completions, well, Jeremiah Masoli threw for 70% even, 7 out of 10. I like that he at least went for 250 yards. The problem is that's a very average performance for Rourke, given that he has no rush attack to bolster him, unlike those Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So you see 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and he has an outsized amount of rush yards for a quarterback. Ended up being an oblique injury. While James Butler not providing a credible threat to give them a real balance. Now, this targeting is shared across both quarterbacks, and it's pretty. Yeah, you got 3 people here, maybe 4 if you count Javon Kotoy. Maybe I cut off the Y there, but I think it's Kotov. And we have a couple sacks and an interception in the last game against these Blue Bombers. And I want to see them get home against Streveler. Streveler was, 250 yards. Not good for either quarterback. The problem is Winnipeg just has more tools. Much more tools in comparison to the Lions. Which leads to the next clip. And we see a touchdown for those BC Lions as we head into the comparative stats between these teams. Well, okie dokie. You see that the Lions threw for more passing yards. Okay. Both quarterbacks performed enough, at least in yardage, to keep things interesting for a little bit. But 246 yards, that was enough, given that he had 200 yard support in the rush game for those Blue Bombers. Streveler did, that is. Net offense seems similar, but what's more effective? Having a balanced attack. Now, I'm actually surprised that net offense is 410. They must be adding punt returns. You know what I mean? Because we add up together the amounts. In fact, I'll see after the episode how they glean this information on TSN. But the defenses, they more or less, I would have to say that the Blue Bombers were more effective. I don't know if they're a better defense. I have a feeling that they are, just because there was no rush attack. I can forgive a few quarterback scrambles from Rourke when you're playing the pass. And whenever they rush the ball, there's not much yards to be had anyways. I guess statistically, the Lions defense was able to sack, but it's a total view of things. I would say that the Blue Bombers were more effective. Heading into that last clip, why don't we? You're going to like how he just stares down the defender in his face and throws the slant route. Oh, it was man-to-man coverage. That is the poison, is the slant route for man-to-man coverage. Oh, let's go ahead and give you guys this one. Sorry about that. Here we are with the touchdown. Sorry about the choppiness of that last clip, but you already know it. I think the Blue Bombers are going to win this one. Let's look over our gambling details. Don't gamble, but if you must know, I will say that. It's very odd to me that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are only a minus 2.5 favorite. That means they only have to win the game by 3 points for you to earn some money off of this one. While the money line is minus 145, that means you have to spend $145 to get the payout from the money line to earn 100. While I think that you're pretty safe with going the money line and the spread, they'll be able to win by more than 3 points, given that the Lions don't have Rourke. They don't have Rourke, and they lost 34-20 in this game where either Rourke is slightly injured or fully out of the game. Got to think about it that way. One of these teams is not as good as they were a week prior, and the other one's basically even. And the basically even team were the ones that won last time, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, for the win. All right, guys, we got it in before tonight's game starting at 5. This is the late game anyway, so we weren't in trouble of being too irrelevant. But bye for now.